How big of a blowback is there right now in MAGA world specifically?
It's pretty big, I have to be honest. It's just a red line that it crosses for many people. Jeffrey Epstein is literally the most well-known convicted pedophile in modern-day history. This is something that's been talked about by many people serving in the administration, myself, and many others on the right and the left of there needing to be transparency.
Oficialmente, Donald Trump no puede escapar del escándalo de Epstein. Por más que lo intente, por más que invente distracciones o que le pida a su base MAGA que simplemente sigan adelante, el tema lo sigue persiguiendo. Y cada día se hace mucho más grande. Para empeorar las cosas, Elon Musk acaba de reaparecer y está haciendo lo que nadie más en la derecha, al parecer, se atreven. Meter el dedo en la llaga y exponer públicamente el intento desesperado de Trump por encubrir su relación con Jeffrey Epstein. Antes de meternos de lleno en el caos que está desatando Elon Musk, quiero que empecemos desde el inicio, con la resolución de Fracasa, para sacar a luz los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein.
Last night, the Speaker's Rules Committee voted to block my amendment that called for the full release of the Epstein files while protecting the victim's identity. Let's just be clear. They voted to protect rich and powerful men who were abusing, assaulting, and abandoning young women. That's what this vote is about. A nation that chooses impunity for the rich and the powerful at the expense of our children is a nation that has lost its moral purpose. So you ask, why did they vote this way? Let's speak plainly. Because these rich and powerful men donate to the politicians in Washington, D.C., play golf with the elites in Washington, D.C., they are foreign leaders who we don't want to offend, they interact with our intelligence agencies that we don't want to disobey. There is something rotten in Washington. And this is a question of whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of America's children? Or are you on the side of the rich and powerful who've had their thumb on the scales and shafted Americans for decades? We are going to get a vote again this afternoon. And I hope people will find the courage of a Republican like Ralph Norman, or a Republican like Marjorie Taylor Greene, or a Republican like Thomas Massey, or the many, many MAGA Republicans who are demanding the full release of the Epstein files.
Esto ya no es solamente un problema para Donald Trump. Esto se ha convertido en una crisis para todo el movimiento MAGA. La razón detrás de todo esto, porque ahora los republicanos están obligados a posicionarse públicamente, a decidir si están del lado de la víctima o del lado del multimillonario implicado. Sí, amigos, esto no es un escándalo político, no es una teoría conspirativa más, esto también es un problema de clase. Durante décadas, los ricos han sido protegidos por el sistema judicial. Gente como Jeffrey Epstein, como Donald Trump, han contado con una red de amigos poderosos que prácticamente los blindaban. Y eso, precisamente, ¿no?, es lo que se está desmoronando. Para que se den una pequeña idea de lo grave que es la situación, hasta Marjorie Taylor Greene ha tenido que hablar al respecto.
How big of a blowback is there right now in MAGA world specifically?
It's pretty big, I have to be honest. It's just a red line that it crosses for many people. Jeffrey Epstein is literally the most well-known convicted pedophile in modern-day history. This is something that's been talked about by many people serving in the administration, myself, and many others on the right and the left of there needing to be transparency of the rich and powerful elites that were in his circle while he was just one of the worst serial abusers of young women. It has been a very serious situation for the administration, and many people are speaking out online. You've seen it. You saw it at Turning Point Student Action Summit this weekend. And a lot of people in MAGA, they really want to know more information about the people that were involved with Jeffrey Epstein, and is there a blackmail list, and are there foreign countries' governments involved? And there's nothing wrong with people continuing to ask that.
Cuando alguien como Marjorie Taylor Greene, alguien como ella, levanta la voz, es porque el movimiento MAGA ha tocado fondo. Y lo más preocupante para Trump es que Elon Musk no está dispuesto a dejarlo respirar. Al contrario, lo está atacando directamente, no solo por su papel en este encubrimiento, sino por su reacción patética, vergonzosa, ante todo este escándalo. Elon Musk está desatando una tormenta. Todo comenzó cuando un influencer MAGA reveló que el comité de reglas de la Cámara votó 7-5 para bloquear una enmienda que pedía una votación completa sobre la publicación de los archivos de Epstein. La respuesta de Elon: una simple frase, extremadamente preocupante. Pero bueno, no se quedó ahí, porque también respondió a otro usuario MAGA que se quejaba de cómo Trump ha roto todas sus promesas y que ya no representa lo que alguna vez fue. Claramente, Elon Musk le dio impulso a otros comentarios conservadores que estaban muy decepcionados, ¿no? Como por ejemplo el de Matt Walsh, que denuncian cómo la derecha está completamente arrodillada ante Trump. Y lo más irónico de todo es que hasta Truth Social, la red social de Trump, se le ha puesto en su contra, porque sus publicaciones están llenas de comentarios de seguidores muy furiosos, exigiendo que se revelen los archivos y que deje de proteger a los poderosos, si es que supuestamente él no está incluido. Elon Musk está apretando todos los botones posibles del algoritmo para que el tema de Epstein inunde los feeds. Está promoviendo el contenido él mismo y señalando directamente a los republicanos MAGA que están ayudando a Trump a encubrir este escándalo. Y ojo, que no me sorprendería si este nuevo partido americano, ¿no?, el que Elon Musk está impulsando, decide entrar de lleno en las primarias contra aquellos republicanos que votaron en contra de liberar esta lista. Esto, señores, puede convertirse literalmente en una carnicería interna para MAGA, y sinceramente no puedo esperar a ver cómo se derrumban. Pero bueno, hablando un poco de incompetencia, también vimos una demostración en vivo de eso, ¿no?, protagonizada por un ex miembro del gabinete de Trump, Mike Waltz, el cual fue totalmente acorralado por el senador Chris Murphy.
Army, it's got peacekeepers, but there's no aircraft carriers, there's no Air Force. This is a place where smart power matters, right? This is a place where we invest in things like diplomacy and humanitarian aid and economic development to try to stabilize the world. I think what worries me about your fit for this position is that while you were at the National Security Council, you oversaw the dismantling of many of our most important smart power tools in the U.S. foreign policy toolkit. A lot of conversation has happened on this committee about what has happened to USAID, our ability to influence the world through economic development and humanitarian assistance, but not as much conversation has happened about the attempted destruction, I think led by an NSC process, of our information and media operations around the world. This administration, while you were at the NSC, essentially shut down USAGM, which is the umbrella agency for our global media operations, fired 92% of the staff, announced plans to shut down Radio Free Europe and Voice of America. That they're only open today because of court orders. The administration does not support the Global Engagement Center, which is also now shut down, which was the State Department's ability to try to work with partners around the world to counter Chinese propaganda and Russian propaganda. I mean, listen, we were already having circles run around us by Russia and by China predominantly, even before the administration went forward with this essential destruction of our existing information and counter-propaganda capacity. So maybe just share with me, you know, while you were National Security Advisor, Why did you believe that it advanced U.S. national security interests to shut down our most important agencies that try to win the information war, which is a war that, whether we like it or not, exists in this world, and we're not fighting it today while our adversaries are?
Thank you for the question, and I think we're in violent agreement that we have to win the information war. We may have a disagreement on the best way to do that. What we did not see were the metrics, were the actual results. As you mentioned, we're getting, in many ways, outpaced in the information space. Yet for decades, we've had these entities that have become expensive and have become quite bloated. I think the best way to block and tackle our adversaries abroad is through our amazing private sector, through innovation, through what we're seeing in our leadership role in AI and in other spaces. And so as the president, as the secretary looked across the interagency and those entities, they made those decisions.
But the private sector isn't going to fight Russian and Chinese propaganda around the world, right? I mean, that has to be an essential function of U.S. national security policy, correct?
Well, what they are going to do is show the power of free markets, the power of entrepreneurship, and show really the power of the U.S. In terms of a free society and with our values.
We're going to rely on Disney?
I think we're actually more aligned than what you think. I think what we were looking at is the actual effectiveness. It's the tool that we questioned, and then the president, the secretary, made a decision to reallocate resources.
Listen, I hope the administration does rethink this. If they've got a better idea on how to try to project power in the information space, then I think we're all willing to hear it. But right now, we're taking ourselves off the playing field. You were very involved in the offensive operations in Yemen. As you saw in this last week, the Houthis have restarted attacks on the shipping lanes, to very devastating attacks. Throughout the last 2 months, they have been continuing to take offensive operations against Israel. It doesn't look like we did much to really fundamentally change the battle space there. They still have pretty robust offensive capabilities to target shipping lanes and to target our friends. We spent, looks like, around $1 billion, depleted a lot of our ammunition stocks. How do you look at that operation in retrospect, knowing that as we sit here today, the Houthis have once again begun attacks in the Red Sea?
Well, thank you, Senator, for the question. I think we also have to look at it in the context of, from the figures that I've seen, a 20 to 30% increase in shipping through the Red Sea, an increase in revenues through the Suez Canal, and what we do not have are our warships being used as target practice by the Houthis, was what, frankly, we had in the last administration. Now, do we need to work to make sure that's enduring? Perhaps the Houthi leadership hasn't fully gotten the message, but I would defer to Secretary Rubio, Secretary Hegseth, and the President on the way forward there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sin duda estamos hablando de una administración que es una mezcla tóxica de incompetencia y traición. Dos conceptos que deberíamos tener muy presentes y repetirnos una y otra vez, porque es lo que está en el corazón de todo lo que representa Trump. Y sí, quizás este escándalo pues no defina, ¿no?, por sí solo las elecciones del próximo año, pero sin duda contribuye a pintar el verdadero rostro de una administración que no tuvo problemas en proteger a criminales y traicionar al pueblo. Ahora bien, amigos, quiero que pasemos a hablar de lo que dijo Trump en su última publicación, porque acaba de hacer algo que creo que hasta el momento no habíamos visto, y es que insultó directamente a su propia base de seguidores. Literalmente, ¿no?, los llamó, usando la palabra, ¿no?, estúpidos. A los mismos que lo han defendido con uñas y dientes por años. ¿Y todo esto por qué? Solo por exigirles respuestas sobre su relación con Jeffrey Epstein. La rebelión interna por el caso Epstein Donald Trump, que siempre había jugado con las teorías conspirativas, ¿no?, para poder manipular a su base, ahora parece desesperado por querer alejarse de este tema, incluso si es que eso significa traicionar a sus seguidores más leales. Quiero que veamos una nota completa sobre lo que da el contexto de esta noticia y luego lo veremos punto por punto.
We start with a MAGA reckoning. Donald Trump ripping his own base in a way we have never seen before, slamming MAGA true believers as, quote, stupid and foolish for demanding answers about the Epstein files. It's an extraordinary turn of events. The president, known for his cult-like power over his base, suddenly engulfed by the very conspiracy theory he fueled. Today in the Oval Office, Trump trying to distance himself from Epstein, falsely blaming Democrats while insulting Republicans for getting, quote, duped.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work. I call it the Epstein hoax.
Will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents to finally put this controversy to bed?
Yeah, whatever's credible, she can release. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release. I think it's good. But it's just a subject. He's dead. He's gone, and all it is the Republicans. Certain Republicans got duped by the Democrats.
In a Truth Social post, Trump calling Republicans who want more information weaklings, claiming he doesn't want their support anymore. This all follows a memo from Trump's own DOJ pouring cold water on conspiracy theories about Epstein's death and his alleged secret client list. The problem is Trump and his top deputies stoked those very same conspiracy theories. Now, new calls from Republicans in Congress for testimony and more transparency.
It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide.
I'll let the Department of Justice continue to carry out what they need to do. I do think there needs to be more transparency.
Well, whatever they have, it needs to be transparent. It needs to come out.
I think moving forward, we need a special counsel. That has got to happen.
I'm big on clarity and transparency, and that's a good reason people don't trust government, either party.
But you don't believe what the Justice Department is saying?
I don't know. No, I don't. I don't trust them.
And we have Marjorie Taylor Greene calling for Ghislaine Maxwell to testify before Congress, and Lauren Boebert saying a special counsel should be appointed, and even floated Matt Gaetz, of all people, for the job. Meantime, inside MAGA's media ecosystem, while some figures are backing off the Epstein story, many others are still digging in. Right-wing personality Laura Loomer, who has direct access to Trump, warning the Epstein scandal could, quote, consume his presidency. Others weighing in.
They've got videotape, and all of a sudden they don't. You have the director of the FBI on this show saying there's no tape. If there was, nothing you're looking for is on those tapes. Like, what? Why did they say there was thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible? Why did they say that?
Right.
Didn't Pam Bondi say that?
I mean, we're getting flooded with thousands, hundreds of thousands of comments that are very unhappy about this. President Trump was elected primarily to go after the deep state. We want to go after the deep state.
It seems like you think your base is stupid. That's how I feel. I feel like Trump thinks his base is stupid.
That, my friends, is where we start. Donald Trump cornered by the most extreme elements of his base on a conspiracy theory that he peddled. Joining me now is Christina Greer, political science professor with Fordham University and author of How to Build a Democracy. Also with us, Rick Wilson, co-founder of the Lincoln Project and host of Rick Wilson's The Enemies List podcast. Rick, I'll start with you and what you make of this mess. Trump's followers, the MAGA base, they've forgiven him for so much over the years. I mean, take it all the way back to the Access Hollywood tape. So why is this the thing now that is sticking?
He has had a decade of, as you point out, basically a free ride with his own base. They have taken all the abuse, all the lies, all the chaos, the scandals, and basically said, we love this. This is what we wanted. But 10 years ago, the Epstein story and this QAnon-driven conspiracy theory of Pizzagate wired into the Republicans' brains that there was a global conspiracy by the Democrats of sex trafficking and child abuse and all this stuff. And it became a central part of the Republican identity. Trump's strongest followers again and again and again promoted this. Trump himself promoted it. Donald Trump Jr. promoted it. They all said, we need to know what's in the Epstein files so that we can go after the Democrats. When they say deep state, they mean the Democratic Party. And so by doing this over and over again, it became seared in the imaginations and the minds of MAGA voters. And now Trump is telling them, never mind, you're stupid. I think, as Tim Pool, one of his strongest supporters, said today, he's nuking his own base.
Christina, do you see it as that serious? I mean, we have seen people who are otherwise very consistently in lockstep with each other, like on their messaging. Megyn Kelly, Laura Ingraham, for example, end up on kind of opposite sides of this in recent days. Just this week, Megyn Kelly kind of trashing Laura Ingraham. I want you to take a listen to some sound and we'll talk on the back.
You now have some MAGA influencers clearly on direction of the White House saying, okay, I'm done. You had Laura Ingraham go on her show on Fox News on last night being like, oh, well, after there was the pile-on at Charlie Kirk's Turning Point event, where there all this Republican infighting, and then kind of suggested she's moving on from Epstein. Okay, she was part of it. I like Laura, but she 100% stood up there and fanned this flame.
Christina, do you think these fissures are real? Is this exposing something real among that base?
Yeah, Antonia, I'm of two minds because as Rick mentioned, there's been little to nothing that can move his base away from him. And don't forget, we need to back up even before 10 years ago when Donald Trump trolled then President Barack Obama, saying that, he demanded to see his birth certificate. His birth certificate wasn't real. He wasn't an American citizen. And when Obama finally acquiesced, and it said that he absolutely is indeed an American citizen, Donald Trump said, no, well, that must be fake and there's nothing to see here. So he's been able to pivot consistently, and his base, just like schools of fish, follow him along. This one is slightly different because there are some people who are saying, well, since you brought it up, you brought up this catastrophe. You're the one who started the storm because you said that there definitely was something there. And now you're saying, let's just walk away and forget it. We've got other things. It's just the Democrats being Democrats. I don't know if this will stick because in the past, they have not been moved by sexual assault allegations. They have not been moved by criminal and civil allegations against the president. And when he's not president, they haven't been moved by any of the language, the vitriol, the hatred. The list goes on and on. So I'm torn as to why this particular instance would actually stick, leading us into the midterms or even beyond that.
Rick, as we do head toward the midterms, we're already starting to see Democrats try to seize on this. They are calling for more information and transparency around it now. They're speaking more frequently about Epstein, and typically Democrats are a bit less comfortable in these sort of conspiracy and conspiracy adjacent spaces. But do you think there's an opening here for them to genuinely connect with voters on this specific issue?
I do, Antonio, because look, this isn't a conspiracy that Jeffrey Epstein was a monster. It isn't a conspiracy that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked young women. It is not a conspiracy that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were close friends and associates for over a decade. It is not a conspiracy that he traveled on Jeffrey Epstein's Lolita Express airplane. It is not a conspiracy that Donald Trump, was quoted saying, oh, Jeff and I are friends, we party, and he likes women on the younger side. None of that's a conspiracy. All that's real. All that's in the face of people right now. And Donald Trump is trying to say, no, that isn't true. These thousands of pictures of me and Jeffrey Epstein partying over the years, that's an imaginary, creation of the deep state. What we're trying to see here, and I think Democrats are very wise to do this, if they say, let's put it out there, no matter where the chips fall. If Bill Clinton's in there, okay, so be it. But if Donald Trump's in there, he has to take accountability not only for the actions he took when he was with Jeffrey Epstein, but also now for trying to engage in...
Bueno, señores, lo primero que salta a la vista es que Donald Trump está atacando su propia base, tildándolos de estúpidos por seguir pidiendo transparencia sobre Epstein. Los mismos que lo apoyaron incluso cuando hablaba del Pizzagate, del Estado Profundo, y otras locuras que ni siquiera tenían pruebas. Y ahora de repente Donald Trump quiere que olviden todo esto, ¿no? Como si nada hubiese pasado. Aquí es donde se pone interesante porque durante años él utilizó las conspiraciones sobre Epstein como un arma política. Alimentó la idea de que los demócratas eran parte de esta red, ¿no? De traficantes, de abusadores. Y eso se volvió una parte esencial dentro del discurso MAGA. Pero ahora que existe una presión para publicar los documentos reales que podrían implicarlo a él mismo, entra en pánico y dice que todo fue una farsa de los demócratas. ¿No es esta una contradicción monumental? Además de lo que es más preocupante, no solo es la hipocresía, ¿no? Sino que es el cinismo. Porque no solo niega todo, sino que lanza el mensaje, ¿no? De que ya no quiere el apoyo de quienes insisten en el tema. O sea que luego de años de manipularlos, ahora los descarta como basura. No olvidemos lo más grave. Está tratando de encubrir información de interés público. Él mismo fue amigo íntimo de Epstein. Viajó en su avión privado. Y hay declaraciones suyas diciendo que Epstein, que a él le gustaban mujeres jóvenes. Entonces, ¿por qué tanto miedo de que estos documentos salgan a la luz? La respuesta es más que obvia, ¿no? Porque él también tiene mucho que esconder. Sé que algunos podrían decir, bueno, es que también hay demócratas tal vez, ¿no? Que están implicados, como Bill Clinton. Así que no politicemos el tema. Y tienen razón en algo. El caso Epstein no debería ser partidista. Pero eso, amigos, no justifica que Trump bloquee la transparencia. Si tanto le importa la justicia, tal y como dice, ¿por qué no lidera el pedido para que todo se publique? Caiga quien caiga, demócrata o republicanos. Porque si de verdad fuese inocente, yo creo que estaría muy feliz, ¿no? De que estos documentos salgan a la luz. Donald Trump creó una maquinaria de teorías conspirativas para manipular a su base, y ahora esa máquina se le está volviendo en su contra. Lo grave no solo es que insulta a sus seguidores, sino que trata de tapar toda la información clave sobre un criminal como lo fue Jeffrey Epstein. Pues bueno, ¿qué opinan ustedes? ¿Creen que Trump está encubriendo su relación con Epstein, que oficialmente su nombre está en esta lista? ¿O piensan que su base lo va a perdonar como siempre? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme hasta el final de este video. Recuerda, como siempre, dale like, compártelo con tus amigos y suscríbete a nuestro canal Políticamente en Desacuerdo. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.